First, by means of introduction, I want to introduce myself. My name is Mike Stangl. I'm the general manager of Genie. As you probably know, we are a MyHeritage company. We initially launched the Genie.com in 2007, and MyHeritage liked what we were doing so much that they acquired our company in 2012, but pretty much set us off on the same path that we had already started. So we're grateful to be part of the MyHeritage family and grateful to be doing what we have started out since the beginning. So first question, if you don't mind, I'm wondering by show of hands, how many people here know what Genie is? It's okay if you don't, but okay, great. Most people know what Genie is. Okay, and how many people here have actually signed up for Genie or tried to use the website? All right, most of us. Excellent. All right, well, it is my great pleasure to introduce Randy Schoenberg, who will be presenting for you today about the Genie World Family Tree and a variety of our features. If you have done any research in Jewish genealogy in, let's say, Central Europe or so, then you can't help but have run into Randy. So he is by far more qualified than I to give this presentation. So I'm going to get out of the way and let him do what he does. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Mike. This is Mike's first Jewish genealogy conference, so let's all welcome him here. It's nice to have the boss of Genie with us to answer any and all questions. So I anticipated this might be a mixed crowd, and by that I mean people who have never been on Genie, people on Genie somewhat, and people are Genie fanatics. So it's sometimes hard to talk about Genie in that context. So I'm going to go through a talk that's oriented toward people who don't yet use Genie, and then later on I think we'll open up questions and we'll start talking about some of the more specific issues that maybe some of you have. We also have a Genie Bird of Feather meeting coming up, I think on Wednesday, and so that'll be another opportunity for Genie users to get together and talk about questions that we have, what's coming up on Genie, that type of thing. Okay, so first, before we get into that, let me tell you a little bit more about who I am. I started working on genealogy over 40 years ago as a young kid in elementary school. Here I am at age 11 or 12 with my 12-foot family tree. That's, I like to point this out as it's sort of how we all start. Genealogy is at its core, or at least at the initial stage, a very narcissistic pursuit. Here you have me pointing to myself as the center of the tree. My siblings were always upset that I was the one in the middle, and I made them in small font next to me. And it shows my family tree, right? And this is what I thought of at that time as my family tree. I was, of course, extremely proud to have so many people, what I thought was so many people on my family tree at that stage. And that's, I think, how we all start out as genealogists, and then some of us move on and expand and look at the world, I think, in a larger context. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today, because Genie and the World Family Tree is that larger context. Here's a recent snapshot from a couple days ago of the count of the number of connected profiles on what Genie calls the World Family Tree. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about that World Family Tree. As Mike said, Genie started off about 10 years ago already, a little over 10 years ago. And the way it started off was people started building their tree. But what Genie's innovation was the idea that we really are all connected in one giant world family tree. Everybody, if we went back far enough, thousands or tens of thousands of years, we'd all be descended from the same people. So why not develop a system where we could all work together, like on a giant jigsaw puzzle, right? And how would you do that? Well, each person building a family tree will build the family tree, but if they get to a point where they match a person with someone else, then what do? And their decision was, well, let's merge those together. So instead of having two separate trees that overlap, we'll have one tree that joins together, and for each person, there'll just be one node, one profile on the tree. So this is a completely different model than the models that developed simultaneously at Ancestry or MyHeritage to very large companies, or even the models for standalone trees on your desktop like Family Tree Maker or Reunion, which is what I used to use, right? On all those other platforms, you build your own tree. You might be able to invite some collaborators with you, but you're not building a tree of the entire world. You're not working on this giant puzzle. Only on Genie were we working on this entire puzzle together. And so that is a model that really took off. And as you see today, we have over 115 million connected profiles. That means if you are on Genie and you connect to this big world family tree, you are connected to 115 million people. So I gave a talk at one of the previous conferences where I said, how many people are on your family tree? I had people raise their hands. Raise your hand if you have more than 100 people on your tree, right? And people raise their hands. If you have more than 500, keep your hand raised, right? If you have more than 1,000, keep your hand raised, right? More than 10,000, right? People start putting them down. Who has 100 million, right? All of us on Genie. If you're on Genie, you have 115 million people on your family tree. So you no longer have to play that game of who has the bigger tree. We all are working together on one giant tree. Okay, so let me give you 20 reasons why you should be building your tree on Genie, and we'll see if any of you agree or if all of you agree. The first, I think, and the most important concept is that working collaboratively is much better than working by yourself. Think of any human enterprise, right? Any business, anything that is done in school or any organization. It's not easy to do things just by yourself, right? You can get a lot more accomplished working with other people. That's what we learn in school. Now, Genie is not for everybody. We always point this out. There are some people, and it's not casting aspersions, but in kindergarten, when the grades came out, when the report card came out, and it says works well with others, okay, they got an F. Okay, and there's some people that do not want to work with other people. And some of them are great geniuses, right? And they do amazing things, but they can't work with other people. Those people should not be on Genie. They should be working on MyHeritage or some other platform where they can work alone and have control of everything. But for those of us who are willing to work with other people, Genie is the platform that allows that type of cooperation. I'll move on. The next concept is I don't care, is not a valid genealogical principle. Now, I have to admit that up to about 10 years ago, if you had asked me about my family tree, I would say, well, I have my blood relatives, but I don't go beyond that. Not interested in my aunt's family and my great-aunt's family. Anybody married in, forget it. I have enough problems with my own family. That was my line. That is not a good genealogical method, as I learned. And Genie will teach you that, because when you work on Genie, you're working with all the in-laws and the cousins of cousins, and you see how much information they have, information that may be relevant to your own family. And the example I like to give is, your grandfather may have had a brother, and the brother got married, right? So that woman, that great aunt, is the person you would say, oh, I'm not interested in that person, right? She's not a blood relative. Well, who do you think went to that wedding, right? Was it just your grandfather's side of the family, right? It's his brothers? No, it's her side of the family also went to the wedding. They have pictures, they have stories, they knew your family, maybe better than you did, right? They are the ones that are maybe the repositories of this information. If you do not branch out and start looking at the in-laws, and then by extension the in-laws of the in-laws, etc., and keep going, you are not going to find out everything there is to find out about your family. The other aspect of this is when you get back to your ancestral village, if it's a village and not a big city, everybody in that village is related to each other. Automatically. They lived there for hundreds of years. Everybody's connected by blood, marriage, closely. They all went to school together. They worked together. They lived together every day. You are interested, I don't care what the surname is, you are interested in every family from that town. Okay? And on Genie, you get to work not just sort of solely on your tree, but you can work anywhere on the puzzle. So you can work on those other families until you find that intersection, until you find the Goldbergs who married the Weinsteins, okay? And that happens in every town. I know it because I've been working through towns, and it happens in every single town. You can connect every single family in that town to every other family in that town, and it's fun. Okay. Preserving your work for the future is something that we don't think of at first when we put together our family tree, right? My family tree, it's for me, after me, who cares, right? That's what most of us begin. But if you decide that, wait a second, all this work I'm putting into building a family tree, what's going to happen to it? Then you have to start thinking a little differently. And Genie, it turns out, is maybe the best way to preserve your work. There are a number of different reasons for that. First, if your work is not on the internet, your descendants, your relatives who are young, are never going to look at it. Okay? They don't know how to, my kids, they don't know what a library is practically. They will not go through card files. They will not look through file cabinets. They will not even look on hard drives. If it is not on the internet, it doesn't exist in the future for people. So all that work that you have in the closet, right, or on your hard drive, as soon as you're gone, it's gone. So where do you put it? That's the next question then. If you contribute to a worldwide project like the World Family Tree, that project is likely to outlive all of us, I would say. And why is that? Because a giant tree, the largest tree genealogically that's ever been built, has value. It had value. Genie was purchased by MyHeritage. MyHeritage may be purchased by something else going down the line. Who knows what corporate structures will look like. But this tree that we're all working on, and by the way, it's 4 million people who are working on this single tree right now. Okay? This tree is going to live for a long time. It's going to last for a long time. People will use it as a reference for a long time. So all the information you put on Genie, which includes not just sort of the rudimentary materials, but also the photographs and the documents and the sources and anything else you put up, that is going to be useful as a source for people for generations to come. And in my view, it's the best way of preserving your data. Okay. Here's a big problem, right? We're lazy. All of us. Everybody's lazy. Everybody has a limit. You've all experienced it. You're working on your tree. You hit a brick wall. You can't find it, or it's too much work to enter all the names of these 8th cousins. Okay, so she had 15 kids. Enough, right? I'm leaving that branch. I'm moving on to something else. We all face this, right? On Genie, we all are working together collaboratively so that where I leave off, someone else can pick up and continue adding, right? It's like a jigsaw puzzle. I'm tired, I'm going to sleep. And this happens, by the way, on Genie all the time because there's a news feed so people who you collaborate with can see what you're doing. I go to sleep and I wake up in the morning and my friends in Israel have been working while I've been sleeping and filling in the rest, right? Because I got tired. This is something that Genie can help with because we all are willing to help. So even if you're lazy, even if you say, I don't have time, I have this big file, it's all on my computer, I don't have time to bring it up, you can get help on Genie. You can get help better on Genie than anywhere else, I think. One of the things that Genie has, and we'll talk about it maybe some more later, are curators. So I'm a curator. There are over 200 curators. About 30 of them have Jewish background and are interested in Jewish genealogy. Curators are volunteer users who will help you if you ask. All you have to do is ask. We sign on to be helpers, basically. Adam Brown, who's running this conference, he is a Genie curator. He and I became curators around the same time, and he calls us park rangers, right? We go around the tree. We look for people who have problems, little errors that can be fixed, where there's a mess and someone merged something incorrectly, and we fix things and we offer to help people. So if you have a problem, I don't know how to do something on Genie, I can't figure out this, contact one of the curators. We are all glad to help. You can get help on Genie. So laziness should not be an issue. That's the next slide, and it's beyond the curators. We, on Genie, curators included, have set up a lot of help files on Genie. So if you click help at the bottom of your screen, you're going to get a whole slew of help files that'll explain to you how to do different things. Because I've got to admit, when I joined Genie, it was difficult to figure out what was going on. It does not work like the rest of the programs that you're used to. And if for a while you think, why? Why is it doing this? Why is this happening? There's a learning curve. We all faced it. I'm learning new things about Genie even after 9 years that I didn't think I would learn, and there's always something new that I didn't know about how the program works. They're always improving things and making it better. So get help. Look at the help files. You can start a discussion. If you click on discussions, the top one is curators, please help. And you can post a question and the curators will try to answer and help you. So get help on Genie. It's better than any other company because you're getting actual people, users, people who really understand the system to help you with your problems. Okay. Your relatives will actually be more likely to collaborate with you on Genie than anywhere else. On Ancestry or MyHeritage, you can invite your cousins to your tree, right? So my tree would be called the Schoenberg tree, right? And I can invite my fourth cousins, who may have names like McDonald or Wilson, right, to my tree, but they're not going to get all excited about building their family tree on something called the Schoenberg tree, right? So as you branch out, you get less help on these other platforms. On Genie, no one owns the tree. It's not named the Schoenberg tree. It's the World Family Tree. So when you add in your cousins and they see you've built out their mother's side, but the father's side is blank, they can start building the father's side and adding in their own people and just become another person working on the puzzle. So what happens is on Genie, your cousins actually get more interested in working on the tree than on any other platform. It's a great phenomenon. Genie is made for tree building. Okay, not that type of tree building, obviously, when I was putting this together, but building your tree. Genie is not like Ancestry or MyHeritage in this sense. Those companies, which are bigger companies, are what I call data aggregators. So Ancestry and MyHeritage, the census, the U.S. Census is the best example. They aggregate data sets. So every 10 years they hire people to go through the entire U.S. Census and index it, and they add that to their site, and then they sell you access to the data. And they also have tree building as a side that you can do with that. Genie is all about the tree building, not so much about the data. Now, because it's linked to MyHeritage, you can access, if you pay MyHeritage, you can access MyHeritage data, but Genie itself is not a data aggregator. It's only about tree building, and they focus just on what you need to build a tree. And that's why it has features that you won't find in other places. For example, each profile can be in a different language, which may or may not affect all of us, but if you're talking about historical figures like Charlemagne, and the French want to call him Charlemagne, and the Germans want to call him Karl Magnus, and right, the Swedes want to call him something else, it's okay because we can have that same person in different languages. You won't find that on the other platforms. So there are a lot of features of Genie that are designed for these sort of tree building functions. Adoptions work very well on Genie. You can have adoptions and foster parents, two sets of parents attached to a single profile. The other programs, I think, don't have that as nice yet. So there are many of these type of features. Tree building is what Genie is about, and that's why it is a very flexible and powerful tool for tree building. Okay, projects. I have a whole bunch of slides on projects because it's one of the things I'm not lecturing on at this year at the conference, but it's one of the things that really makes Genie stand out, for me at least, is the ability to have projects. Projects are a sort of an overlay on the tree. It's basically a directory and a way of organizing information on the tree. So you can set up, all of you, can set up a project. It takes about 30 seconds, maybe less. Anybody can set up a project. It functions like a Wikipedia page. So anybody who is a member who joins a project has the ability to edit the project, to add profiles to the project, to start discussions, to add photographs, etc. And it's a way of organizing information. So what I like to do, you can find it here. You see where it says research and you click on projects. That will take you to the projects homepage. And you can find a lot of different projects. You can search projects. It's, by the way, something you can use for free. You don't have to be a pro member. So here are some of the features in projects. You can create and edit and add photos. I've talked about this already. Let's see. Here's what it looks like when you start a new project. You just type in the name of the project. You can skip if you want adding profiles, but you can try that. You can add a collaborator if you want, and you write a description, and you click at the bottom, create project, and boom, there's a new project on Genie. Okay? And it's a way of organizing data. So there are projects on people who were on the Titanic, right? Everybody on the Titanic is linked to the Titanic project. But what I like it for, and what's good for Jewish genealogy, are town projects. So all of us trace back to ancestral towns, right? And if you know Jewish Gen, which I love, I'm a new board member of Jewish Gen. Jewish Gen has something called the Jewish Gen Family Finder, which most of you probably have used or looked at. And you search your town. If you're from Ukraine, you search your town, and there are like 300 people researching that town, right? But they're all doing their own thing, and they enter in just the surnames of their ancestors and not the in-laws. It's the wrong way to do genealogy. The best way is to set up a town project, get all those people to start contributing their profiles to the project, and start building the interlocking trees. Because remember, all of them link together. We're all linked together. And you could do this, and we've done this for Krakow, for example, using Dan Hirschberg, who lives in San Diego, has a website where he has identified 600 or more families from Krakow. And it's all on a website. It's a little, each family is listed as a descendant chart. But we've now entered them into Genie. So they're all on Genie, and there's a directory. There's a project where you can find any family. Here's the beginning of it, right? So we list all the families, and there's a way to hyperlink so you can get to them, right? So if you're looking for one of these families, the Allerhand family, number 15, you click on Marcus, and you get to his family tree. It's a way of organizing the project. I use this when I'm going through records because I'll be building one family out, and you find a marriage to someone else, right? So you're working on the Friedmans, and she marries a Steinberg. Oh, where are the Steinbergs in this town? I know they're on Genie somewhere. This is how I find it, because I put them on the project page. All I have to do is go back to the project page, and I find the Steinbergs from this town, right? And it's a way of then, okay, so where does she fit now, this Steinberg on the Steinberg tree? And it's a way of merging the trees together, putting them together. It's a very, very powerful tool. Joining projects, a lot of people don't figure it out because you have to click on Actions over on the upper right. And then you get this pull-down menu, and you see near the bottom it says Join Project. That's all you have to do to join a project. It then a message goes to the collaborators who are already in the project, and they can let you in. So there's a little bit of a gateway. Not anybody can join the project. But basically, anytime I get a request to join a project, I accept the person into the project because I'm excited that there's another person who's interested in this town, right, or this project that I've set up. So all of you should be setting up projects or working on existing projects with your ancestral villages and inviting and getting more people to collaborate. When you get to any public profile can be added to a project. So again, you go to the Actions menu, and you see second from the bottom, Add to Project. So if you click on that, then you'll get another screen. It looks like this. And you can type in the name of the project, and you can add that person to the project. This happens to be my grandfather, who was a member of a bunch of projects, right? So it's very easy to add people to projects, and that then becomes a link on their profile page to the project. So it's sort of like a way to get more information about this aspect of the person's life, that they're from a particular town, or that they're a composer, or whatever common theme the project is built around. Okay, so the big project that I hope everybody will join is this, the Jewish Genealogy Portal, which is itself a directory. We call it sort of an umbrella project, because it is a directory that identifies and links to most of the major Jewish projects on Genie. And sometimes there's several levels of this directory. But if you want to find something about Jews from Poland, or Jews from Romania, or Jews from Hungary, or wherever, Iran, Morocco, etc., start here, and it'll link you to another project page, and maybe you'll go down several levels until you find the one that you want. And there's many, many, many projects. You can see it. This is just the top part of it. The biblical tree, if you're interested in that. Holocaust, we have projects for every camp, every transit camp and extermination camp, etc. So that's another way of organizing. Here's an example. For example, Frankfurt, the Jews of Frankfurt. There are books on this. There's a lot of resources. So it's a good way of listing where the resources are, providing links to all the resources. So it's easy for everybody to find where the materials are when you need to research. And then it's a list of the surnames so you can find the trees. And it just works very well. I'm going to show you a few of these. Here's one I built for the Jews of San Francisco, right? So lots of Jews went to San Francisco before 1900, and here's some of them, and all with links to their trees. Jewish families from Prague is maybe the main project I have. I've identified about 300 different families, and as I work through them, I use this project to find the families. The good thing is also, if you're not a pro member and you can't use Genie search, the projects will help you find things a lot easier. Sometimes if people are not pro members, they can't find things by using search, but if you go through the projects, you'll be able to find the profiles you're looking for. Here's one from a smaller town. Again, so you have a description, you might have a photograph, and then links to all the families. Here's another one, right? So, okay, so enough about projects. Another reason that Genie is just the greatest is the relationship finder. You won't know how much fun this is until you try it. Basically, any Jew I can find a relationship to on Genie. It doesn't work with Abraham Lincoln. It's too far away, right? He's not Jewish. But anybody who's Jewish, who has a Jewish connection, Genie will find a path. Now, it's not easy to do, actually. It's a hard computational problem to find the shortest path between 2 points in an interconnected network of nodes. It's a really hard problem. Genie has the absolute best algorithm. I don't know what they do exactly, but they will find a link. You can try it. So it's actually Daniel Radcliffe, you know, Harry Potter. So it's his birthday today. So I looked, how am I related to Harry Potter, right? And so it goes, I can walk over here. Everybody at this conference is related like this. Okay? You don't believe me? Challenge me. Okay? Come up and say, you won't find a path to me. By the end of this conference, I'll have a path like that to you. Okay? Guaranteed. I did a project. I have a slide of it later. In my son's 5th grade class, he went to a Jewish day school, 52 kids. I figured out how he was related to everybody in his class, related or connected, right, to everybody in his class. Half of them were Persian. Okay? Every Jew is closely connected to every other Jew, and you will find that on Genie. There's something else. I have a project that I call the Celebrity Birthday Calendar, for lack of a better name. It's a list of every famous Jew I can find, and a link to their Genie profile. So you can go to that and click on Albert Einstein, click on Sigmund Freud, click on Franz Kafka, click on whoever you want, Chaim Solomon, whoever's talked about, right? You can click and find how you're connected. And it always looks like this. Okay? Okay. On Genie, you can find and correct mistakes. That is hugely important. It's paradoxically one of the complaints that we get about Genie. People will come up to the Genie table, and I've been at many conferences with Genie and sitting at the table, and they'll say, I hate Genie, I found a mistake. I say, great, let's fix it, right? On Genie, it's the only place where you can actually fix someone else's mistake, right? Because we're all working together on this giant puzzle. And what happens is, because of the way Genie works, where it's very publicly available. All the deceased people are public, and you can find them in Google. People find their trees on Genie, and they find mistakes, and they fix them. We all make mistakes. I make tons of mistakes. There are 115 million connected profiles. Even if it's 99% accurate, that's over 1 million profiles with mistakes. That's if it's 99% accurate, which it probably isn't, right? Because nobody's that good. There are many, many mistakes. On Genie, they get found by the 4 million people who are scouring the tree every day, and they're corrected. So over time, Genie has become, and I'm sure this is true, the most accurate tree that you will find. The most accurate large tree that you will find. Right? So even though you say, oh, I found a mistake, it's that very fact that you found a mistake which demonstrates how good Genie is. Because you won't find the mistakes on the other platforms. They just sit there unchanged for people to copy and instead of correct. So finding and correcting mistakes are the key to Genie. Okay, here's another bonus. Genie is mostly free. You can use it to build your tree indefinitely for free without paying a cent. I would say about 95% of the features on Genie are free. The main ones that I can think of that you need to pay for is Genie Search. So when you use the search field and it comes up with a list and you click on one, it'll say, become a pro member, right? That's how they get you to become a pro member. You can get around that. For public profiles, you can go to Google, and if you add plus site genie.com to any Google search, you'll get all the Genie profiles that match that. So if you're looking for, again, Sigmund Freud, and you don't want to use Genie search, you do Sigmund Freud plus site genie.com, and up he pops in a Google search, and you can get there that way without paying. And Mike Stengel, he tells people that also, because he knows that once people get used to Genie, then they'll probably want to pay eventually for this search feature or some other feature. He doesn't mind that people can use Google to circumvent the paywall. So that's one aspect of Genie, which in theory you might have to pay for, but you really don't for most of it. The other is when you get a match on your tree to someone else's tree. In other words, two people have entered in an identical person. The first one you get is free on Genie. The first time, so you're building your tree and you get a match, you can merge, and that's no problem. The next one you have to pay for. So they want to get you into the World Family Tree, but after that you need to pay for this feature of matching. You can still confirm matches that other people do, but you can't initiate through the tree matches without being a pro member, I think. And then the last thing is there's a limitation, if you're not a pro member, on how many megabytes of pictures you can upload and videos and things like that. So if you want unlimited, then you have to be a pro member, that type of thing. But for most people, free membership is all they need. And that's really good, because that means your cousins that you invite to your tree can basically get everything they want out of your tree without paying. So you're not inviting them to something that they necessarily have to pay for. They can see all the work that you've done, all the pictures. They can add maybe some of their own pictures, but they don't have to pay for it. So that's one of the great features about Genie. Genie is also, as I mentioned, mostly public, and they have probably the best search engine optimization of any of the companies. So this is not true of MyHeritage or Ancestry, for example. If you want people to find your tree, and I do, I want my cousins to find the work that I've done and tell me that they're a cousin that I haven't found, right? That's what every genealogist dream, right? Your fifth cousin finds you, okay? That's going to happen on Genie more likely than any other platform, because all the deceased people are public, and they're in Google, and they come up really high in a Google search. So if you have an unusual name, happened to you, right? Right. They'll find you on Genie. They may not find it it certainly won't find it if it's in your drawer of your desk or in your garage. They won't find it if it's in your hard drive. They probably won't find it even if it's in Ancestry or MyHeritage, but they will find it on Genie. So that's, I think, a great feature. Genie is a community of genealogists, many Jewish genealogists, but not just Jewish genealogists. Genie is one of the most popular websites, period, in Estonia for some reason. It's like the number 10 most visited website. Who knows why, right? It's all over the world, and so you find on Genie, at least I have found as a curator and being a member of the curator community, people who do superhuman feats. And I mean, I do a lot. Kevin here and I are maybe among the top 10 most active Genie users, but there are people. There's one guy who in the last, it's less than 5 years, I think 4 years, has added 300,000 profiles by hand to the tree. Okay? A German guy, one of the curators. There's a woman who's merged like 500,000 mergers. Crazy, right? So you find out what's humanly possible on Genie, whereas you wouldn't find that out in other respects. So I like being a part of this community of genealogists to see, and I learn a lot. You learn how do people document, right? How do other people do things? Because it's all much more visible than it is on any other platform. I really enjoy that. Discussions are a great way to get help. I mentioned that earlier. Anybody can open a discussion. You can open up a discussion on a particular profile. It's a good way of resolving issues. Oftentimes, the records are in conflict, especially if you go in rabbinic genealogy, right? So people will be called father, but sometimes they're really the father-in-law, right? And so you want to have a discussion with all the people who are interested in this person. Okay, this rabbi who lived in 1650, is he really the father of this person, or is he the father-in-law, or is he the cousin, right? How does the person fit together? You can have a public discussion about that, and the resolution is also public, and it stays with the profile so that other people can look and see what has been done. I'll give you an example. The Horowitz line had a connection back to Spain and back to King David. And I'm descended from a Horowitz at some point. So I was interested in this. And with the Rabbi Marmerstein, decided to look at what is the source of this legend that the Horowitz family, which originated really in Prague with the name Horowitz because there's a town nearby named Horowice. How could they have come from Spain? And it turns out that legend was invented by a Polish rabbi probably in around 1890. And that there are many, many sources before that which do not mention this connection, even when they talk about the genealogy of the family. So what we did is I had a discussion on the profile. I said, I'm going to sever this connection, this sort of mythical connection, going back to Spain, because I don't think it's true, and here's why, right? We had a big discussion, and ultimately it was severed. Some people didn't like it, but I think most people are accepting it. You can have that type of discussion, and at some point someone might come up with evidence that proves it wrong and puts it back, right? But you can have discussions like that. It's a very good way of resolving problems. As I mentioned, Genie is global, not just Estonia, but all over the world people are using Genie, and that's one of the great features about it. As I mentioned, it's also translated into many more languages than other programs. So if you have, as I do, family on all the continents, I even have connections to New Guinea, okay, just within my fourth cousin group. Everybody can use Genie, so it's a good thing. It's not just a Jewish tree also. All of us probably have non-Jews in our tree, and they'll be happy to use Genie also as their platform. It's, of course, mostly not Jewish, but, of course, the Jews are very active on Genie, so we have a pretty good, a good cross-section. Another slide, Genie is fun. I didn't have as much fun with genealogy until I started on Genie. And it's this cooperation and collaboration. It's for those of us working in the Austria-Czech field, we have so many records now, it's like a race. Who can find it first, right? So when you get to, you hook into sort of a gold mine, you say, ooh, I got to add all these people before someone else finds it. It becomes something that's really fun and engaging, at least for me. You can learn about areas beyond your field. I thought this was a good picture. These are Bukharin Jews. I've certainly learned a lot more about how families are put together, how genealogy works, what type of records are in different areas, because I have been on Genie and I've been working with other people, right? We all have so many people in our families that we don't really know about. I developed something called the Genie Forest Density Calculator, which calculates how many people are within up to 10 steps of you. So each step is like a parent or a sibling or a spouse or a kid. So it's like 6 degrees or 10 degrees of separation. We have thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people just in this constellation, right? And which we don't know about because they may have gone to other areas, right? If I'm working in Austria Czech, I may not know about Latvia, right? But I will learn about it through Genie because there is a connection to Latvia, and I can look at these trees that other people are working on. So it really broadens your horizons, I guess is the right word for it. Genie has a very open architecture, meaning there's something called a API, which allows, it's an interface that allows programmers to use Genie for other things. So I mentioned that forest density calculator that I did. That operates on top of Genie and produces a result. There's also and I'll talk about it in a little bit, another curator, Jeff Gentis, who has developed a program called Smart Copy that works with Google Chrome. It's a Google Chrome app that works on top of Genie and is just a genius device. It will check to make sure that has sort of a date checker to make sure that the parents aren't too young when the kids are born. It corrects if people use all caps, which you're not supposed to use on Genie. It will allow you to fix that and correct things, but it also allows you to add in families from other platforms like MyHeritage or Ancestry, etc. It's a really great program, and there are people who are constantly inventing new things to work with this database, which is what I really like a lot. Okay, so that was 20 actually reasons why you should all be on Genie. Most of you already are. Some of you who think you might not be on Genie probably are on Genie and don't know it because one of your cousins probably added you in. I talked a little bit about the Jewish genealogy portal already. I talked about my 5th grade project for my kids' class. And that is it. That's the last of the slides. So thank you very much. We have a lot of time left. Sorry, it's 3:43, so I took 45 minutes, and that was the plan. I wanted to spend the rest of the time actually showing you live on Genie what things look like, because I didn't want to just talk about it. Sit down, please. Sorry? Okay. So thank you. So here's what a tree looks like if you haven't seen it on Genie. Let me show you some of the features that you can use that you may not use enough, even if you are on Genie. So see this down at the bottom here where it says Preferences? You can change how your tree looks. You can change how many ancestors and how many descendants are drawn. So it redraws the tree. So here's a smaller version of the tree. This can be very useful when you're working on your tree and you need it to look a little differently, right? Sometimes things get a little too far afield and too complicated. So you can, I do this all the time. I'll redraw the tree so it looks the way I want it to. You can have different formats, of course. You should all play around with this. If you want to just see photos, I don't do that so often, or names only, etc. There's this option, flip nodes is what I like, but a lot of people, when you join Genie, you'll have, let me go back to the standard layout here. So you'll have these type of things. So using Smart Copy, you can transfer, you can copy and add onto your tree that way, but the idea is not to duplicate what's already on Genie. So you can, we can talk about Smart Copy. Smart Copy is a project, so you can find this under projects. You search Smart Copy, and you can learn all about it. You can import profiles from all of these different sites. So it includes Ancestry and MyHeritage, but also Billion Graves, Find a Grave, Wikitree, WeRelate, etc. It is partly a pro-only feature, and a curator will have to send you an invitation to use Smart Copy. So if you want to use Smart Copy, contact one of the Jewish genealogy curators. I think I have there's a project for the curators, the Jewish curators. So again, under projects, you can find this if you look for Jewish curators, and you'll find a list of all of us. And you can contact any of the curators. It says sort of what the areas of expertise are on all of us. Many of us are here today. Raise your hand if you're a curator. Okay? So if Kevin, Max, and Ben, Adam Brown is also a curator. I'm a curator. So any of us can help you out. And of course, you can contact any of the people on this list for help. Yes, in the green. In the green. So the problem is that if it's part of the world family tree, it's no longer just yours, right? So other people may have added things, may be relying on things, so they don't allow sort of mass deletion. You can delete your own account on Genie, and if you go to the Genie table, they can take off your kids and things like that. But the rest of it probably will stay because other people will have joined your tree, your cousins, etc., and you can't delete them. So again, Smart Copy will help identify on Genie something that is on MyHeritage and missing on Genie. So when you look at your tree, let me see if I can find from my. So Smart Copy. See this for my dad here. You see this green thing? So that's a MyHeritage link. So if I click on that, I will find all the MyHeritage trees that match my dad. Now, at one point, someone had on MyHeritage had added a death date for my dad, who's still, thank goodness, very much alive, because there's another Ronald Schoenberg born the same year who died. Okay, so they thought, ooh, and they added that to my dad, and that was wrong. And I was getting all of these smart matches to this incorrect deceased version of my father, which was a little bit annoying. Anyway, these are all the trees on MyHeritage that have my father in them, and you'll show up like that also, right? So your MyHeritage tree will show up as a match on your Genie tree if there's something missing. If, for example, this death date, you see it right here? See the death date there? Okay. So if you wanted to add that in to my father, right, I could do that using Smart Copy. You want to see it? I'm not going to kill my father off. But so this is an erroneous profile on MyHeritage. It's a good example, right? There are 7 versions of my dad. There's only one of him on Genie, 7 on MyHeritage. Some of them wrong on MyHeritage. They have him deceased. If this was information I wanted to copy, I could click on Smart Copy. It will pick up, if the internet's working well enough, that information to allow me to copy it over to his profile. See it here? See the death date right here? Right? So I could click Submit. This is Smart Copy. This is a program that's designed by a curator on top of Genie. It's an independent program. So it's been around for a year or two, but it's a Google Chrome app that's developed by a curator. So it's not a Genie program. They didn't design it. It was done by a curator. It's a very powerful tool. You have to use Google Chrome as your browser. That's correct. Okay. 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 So I use Google Chrome for it. Okay. So that gives you that's sort of a demonstration of how Smart Copy works a little bit. And I mean, I didn't click on it because I don't want to kill my dad off. But that's yeah. So Harvey, what I do in the instance where I want to find everybody from a town on Genie, if you want to do it quickly, you can do it in Google and just add that plus site, genie.com. Or if you're a MyHeritage member, you can do a MyHeritage search on just the Genie World Family Tree. And that'll allow just a town search. So you can circumvent it that way. It won't get the private profiles, but since you're not looking for living people, that probably would work fine. Let me show you another feature that you may not know about. It was added more recently, and that is these ancestor and descendant reports you can do on Genie. They're very standard, but also very, very useful, right? So you click on that and you get all the ancestors going back. It goes up to 20 generations, although I think it times out for some of the bigger families.
Where'd you get that from?
That's on the profile page. If I go back there, I'll show you. Under Actions, Ancestor Report or Descendant Report, you can do this for any profile. No, this is not. The only pay features, again, are the search, and the search will work up to a point. It'll show you what you can't look at, okay? But that's the main pay feature that you need to pay for if you don't want to circumvent it. The other issue is the amount of photos you can upload and the tree matches. Those are the 3 things that really you need to pay for. Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, pretty much everything. I'm not sure if it does marriage. It doesn't do marriage dates, I don't think. But it might. I have to check it again. There's another thing we haven't talked about yet, and that's DNA, which is the big topic at this conference. How many? There must be every lecture has to talk about DNA, I think is a requirement. So Genie made sort of a collaboration with Family Tree DNA, which is one of the big DNA companies, and the one that probably has the most Jewish presence. Bennett Greenspan is here at the conference, so you can always talk to him about Family Tree DNA. And if you are on Family Tree DNA, you can relatively easily click to add your DNA information to your profile, and then it propagates up the tree up to a certain number of generations, 10 generations, something like that. Please sit down, Kevin. And so it's obviously a nice feature to have. You can also upload DNA from other companies, 23andMe, Ancestry, etc. That function, though, hasn't been completed yet. Again, when Mike comes around, or when you talk to him in the hall, you can ask him about that. He's working, I think, on integrating some of the other DNA uploads that people are making into the Genie site. But for now, it's Family Tree DNA, and it works like Family Tree DNA, where you can look at other profiles. So I can look at 853 profiles on Genie with DNA that matches mine through the autosomal work that Family Tree DNA works on, and it probably will take too much time to upload those. But it's just a better way, I think, of looking at your potential cousins, because you can see their whole tree, right, which you cannot see on Family Tree DNA so easily unless the person has added it, right? So if I have and you can organize these in a whole bunch of different ways. I'm not going to go through it, but if you're interested in DNA, Genie has one of the better DNA features right now also. So this will look at this just gives you an ancestor report, right? So you share some strand of DNA. You know how autosomal DNA works? It's not the Y, which is the father, or the mitochondrial, which is the mother. It's the stuff in between where you don't know where it is from, right? We all have DNA from our ancestors, but finding it is the hard part. So this will give the person's ancestor chart, so I can see, oh, is there a name that matches one of my names, right? Maybe it's a Vial, because I may have a Vial going back in my family. Not bad. Let me show you, before we finish, more about what we have on the Jewish Genealogy portal. Here it is, sorry. So the Jewish Genealogy portal is something that I started up as a directory umbrella project for all the Jewish projects on Genie. I realized there were a lot of projects that people were adding to Genie, but nowhere to find them, nowhere, they weren't organized. And so this was an attempt to organize, and now there are 1,387 collaborators. Again, to collaborate on a project, you click on Actions, and it'll say Join Project. Here, I'm in it, so it says Leave Project. But you can go and join this project. Anybody can participate, anybody can add to it, and we have tons and tons of Jewish projects on Genie. North and South American, we have one for each state, for example, in the United States. So for early families who came to Arkansas, right, they all can be on a project together, that type of thing. And then for all the European countries, basically, and some of the non-European ones, we have sub-projects. So Galicia, right? Let's look at Galicia. So Galicia has a sub-project called the Jewish Communities of Galicia. That's its own project. On that project, if the internet lets it load up, you'll see a directory of all the Galician projects on Genie. Here it is, coming, there we go, there it is, okay? So it has a list, here's, okay? So if you're a Galicianer, possibly some of your family came from one of these towns. Should we look at one, random one? I don't know. Most di male, let's see if there's anybody in. Some of these may be empty, just waiting for people to join and build them up. Others may be very full, like the Krakow project. I don't know if I should randomly go to one and see if there's any. This one's empty, right? Huh? Mostiska? Is that you? It may be empty. Just waiting for you to join and add a description, add some information about the town, invite some collaborators, add your family members to the project so it starts looking like this one may, I don't know, let's see. Always empty. Yeah. This will have links also to Jewish Gen. It'll have, so look what Krakow looks like now, right? Okay, so Krakow is a project we're working on right? But all of these are towns that are waiting. Some are waiting for you to take over the project and build it out. So here is Krakow loading up. It's such a big one. It's going to take a while. It's really it's the biggest project on Genie, I think, in terms of the number of profiles. No, I think it has the most profiles added of any project on Genie. We'll see what the current count is. Pam Karp, who's in Australia and usually comes to these conferences, is the one who really spearheaded this project. Yeah. So is that what it is? Yeah. 42,000 profiles have been added to this project, and you see all the families, right? Okay, and if you click on Simcha Blumenfeld, who knows who he is? There's actually a Schoenberg in Krakow. I could have clicked on that one. Here's his profile, right? And if you want to view his tree, you can look at his tree, and it looks like this. And all these trees interlock, of course, because who are you going to marry? Not your sister, but someone, right? You're going to marry a Gumplowitz, right? And suddenly you're in the Gumplowitz tree or the Meisels tree, right? All these families are all connected 17 different ways as you go down through the generations. So it's really an unbelievably dense forest of Jewish trees. Yes. Well, they don't do things. Genie doesn't do things automatically, and that's by design, right? Genie is about what we make it, right? It's a platform for us to work on. Think of it like a giant table, and we're building the puzzle. So it doesn't add things automatically because it might be something you don't want to. You might not be Jewish, right? It doesn't have any indication the person's Jewish. Now, look, if the guy's name is Chaim Rosenfeld, okay, we think he's Jewish, but Genie wouldn't have any way of knowing that. So it doesn't automatically add the person to the project. But it's very easy, what's the name of the town again? What was it? I'll show you how I do this, right? So I go to Google. M-O-S, what is it? Mostiska, okay? And I'll say plus site genie.com, okay? And it turns out, so it comes up with Jewish, I told you the search engine stuff is pretty good. Tilly Wenger, how about this Ada Abramovich Keller? Look at all these people, a couple people, okay? So that looks pretty Jewish to me. Okay, and this, do you know this person? Okay, Abramovich Keller is probably Jewish. Sarah Cohen is the mother, okay? So I did, I'll show it to you again. Whoops. Sorry. Mostiska plus site genie.com. That will limit the results to just Genie pages. I just did the name of it. Sorry, you want me to? Sorry. There we go. Like that. Can you see it now? Sorry. There we go. Okay. Okay. And I went to Adela, and this is how easy it is. So I go to her page, and now I go to Actions, and I add her to a project. You will be able to invite her to a project if you're not a curator, I think. Not sure if you'll automatically be able to add her. Okay.
All of these people who are from this town would have to go in and add themselves to this project.
Well, it's whatever we do is possible, right? So for each one, and it worked, yeah. You don't need the colon or anything. Now the other thing is, I could see this person. Now there's a new person, right? Itai Louv, right? So so I know that Itai Louv, this manager of this profile, who was maybe last on. Well, he's been on Genie recently, but he started in 2007. He's a pretty early adopter. He's interested in this town, so I'm going to invite him. Right? I know because he typed that town in. I'm going to invite him to the project, or him. I guess it's a him. You never know in Israel these days. Everybody is. It's a him. Okay. You could, yeah. So that's just a Google function. If you do plus site : it limits the results to that site. Sure. Let me go back to where I was. Let's see. Whoops. Right? So I did this type of search. Right? So here's another one, Neely Goldman, right? Which one is yours? Is yours on here or not? What's the name? So maybe you didn't type in the place. on your on the Genie profile. This one looks. Now, for some reason, she had that Mostiska on her profile. Maybe it must have been her mother or something. Who knows? Okay, so that's the that's the yes. Sorry. I mentioned right. So if you go to the yes. So, but I'm sure Maimonides is here. Sometimes when you search famous names, it comes up with too many people. But here's Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, right? So pretty much the further you go back, the more likely it is you're going to find that someone else has done the work for you. Right? We're 7 billion of us, but it all goes back to 1 billion, right? So there are not so many people living back then. So everybody has been building on this tree. The further you go back, the more complete it is sometimes. So let's see if I'm related. Yeah, up to 20 generations if it doesn't time out, if it's not too big. I'm not sure if Maimonides has a big tree or not, because I'm not sure if his family is so well known. So we'll see if it connects me even to him. Sometimes the historical ones are on little islands by themselves, but we'll see if it gets a path. I can follow Maimonides. That way I'll get an alert anytime anybody does something to the Maimonides profile. It's the search, right? So their algorithm is now doing this calculation. No path. Okay. That's okay. Well, maybe someone is, but I'm not close enough to connect it to Maimonides. No path for me. Doesn't necessarily mean. It's probably not a big tree. Rashi is probably a better one to search. Yeah, sit down, Kevin. Kevin, sit down. Thank you. Okay, so here's, unfortunately, a lot of people put Rashi in the name of the Rashi, so you get all the grandkids and all that. Here he is, Rashi. Okay, so but you can do this for all the biblical, whatever you want. You can have fun looking at what the work. Now you see this MP. Does everybody know what that is? The curators are allowed to designate people master profiles. This makes it easier to search for them. We also have the ability to lock down the profiles. Oh, he's my fifth cousin, 31 times removed. How exciting. Okay. We have the ability to lock the profiles. This is very useful in areas where there's been, for example, an erroneous publication, right? Something that's published 100 years ago that's been disproved. And you don't want people finding that and then adding it and changing it when everybody knows it's wrong. Anybody who's been working on it knows it's wrong. So we can lock down profiles where these disputes have been resolved a particular way so they don't get changed. And you see, so this is my path for what it's worth to Rashi, my cousin, right? All of us are closely related, more close than this probably, because he did live 1,000 years ago. Okay, any other questions about Genie? We're going to have another bird of a feather. I can't remember the time of it. If it's really, is it really tomorrow? Okay, is it in the afternoon or something? I have so many things to do. I'm going to be at the conference all week. I'm giving a talk tomorrow morning at 8:15 on teaching genealogy to kids and some experiences I had with that. We'll be on Tuesday. I'll be doing a lot of work with the Austria-Czech Special Interest Group, which is my group. And I'll be giving a talk on Austrian and Czech genealogy and attending our speaker, Julius Müller from Prague, is here. And he'll be speaking on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I think I have a talk on privacy. Is that on Thursday? I'll be here all week. And when I'm not in the talks and not listening to other people, I'll probably be around the Genie booth. So you can go in and find me there. You can find Mike Stangl there, who's the CEO of Genie. We're very, very happy to have him here today. And thank you all for coming. Thank you.